My name's Paddi Creevey. I have had the good fortune to be involved in local government in Mandurah for the last 20 years as a coastal ward councillor, deputy mayor, and then 8 years as mayor. I decided to run for local government to become a councillor basically because someone asked me to. There was a very major environmental issue running in our community at the time, and a lot of us were very concerned about the direction that the community was going. My own background had been in working with the community, and I thought that I could make a contribution. I guess what motivated me was the sense that sometimes if you really want to change things, you have to be prepared to be part of that change. So the motivation basically was I wanted to try and make a difference. So in my experience in local government, I was 20 years in local government, 8 of those as mayor, 2 popular elected elections. But the first few years I think were quite critical. And I learned a lot in that period that I think served me well. And even though I'd gone into local government like many people do because of a particular issue, the first thing you learn is to really keep your mind open, because you might have a concern about one thing, but when you get into local government, you realise the local government has to deal with a multitude of things. I think there's something like 149 acts that the local government has to answer to. As a councillor, you're really the tip of the iceberg. The amount of work that goes on with the staff is just so significant. And I guess one of the things I learnt very quickly is that I was on a steep learning curve. Yes, I had a professional career. Yes, I'd lived in the community. Yes, I really thought I could make a difference. But I was only going to be effective if I realised 2 things. And those things were I had to persuade others to my way of thinking so that the vote carries in the chamber. And the second thing was I had to be prepared to learn about what the enormous roles were that were carried out in local government. And so to come in with just one fixed idea really limits how effective you could be. And one of the good things about local government now is that it does provide a huge amount of in-house training and also training both through the Local Government Association and other sources. And I know there's been a lot of debate about whether councillors should have mandatory training, but I would say any intelligent person would understand if you enter a whole new world, common sense would tell you that the more you learn, the more you understand, the greater the impact you could make. And if you're going to go to all the trouble to be elected, to serve your community, then surely you owe that community to be the best councillor that you could be. There were so many things I've enjoyed about being in local government. I won't be Pollyanna and say that it was all easy. It wasn't. I think the first year, I was on the losing side of a 9-3 vote for just about every item because of the mixture of people on council and the way they thought about things. So you're not always going to get your own way. And that's when I learned very quickly that you had to really persuade people to your way of thinking. You couldn't bully them. You couldn't just talk at them. You had to really have a good argument, and then I guess the next most important thing was the establishment of relationships. You don't have to like and socialise with everyone you work with, but you do really need to respect them and their point of view. And I think the more you show respect, the more you get respect. It's interesting now, the research that's being done, that when you show respect, it has a physiological effect on people, and that's now well documented. Conversely, when you show disrespect, that has a negative impact. So, as well as being prepared to learn, the thing that I guess helped me the most and made my time in local government so enjoyable was an understanding that it's all about the relationships. About the relationships with your colleagues on council. You know, they're not all going to be your best friends, but they've been elected by the community. They hold a very unique position. The relationship with the CEO, absolutely fundamentally important. If the relationship between the council and the CEO is working, then you're off to a flying start. And while the councillors are not involved in the operational issues with the staff, having a way of showing your respect for the work the staff do is so important. This, of course, all goes to what we're talking about basically is leadership. You are an elected leader, but being a leader does not give you permission to be rude, disrespectful, or think you know everything. Good leaders learn. So I think councillors in this era really now understand that they have a huge responsibility to develop themselves as leaders, not just in terms of that I have authority, because you don't. You have an obligation. You have responsibilities. I was recently talking to a counsellor who I'd helped to mentor, and she was so excited that she had got a significant policy through by huge research, consultation with the staff, engagement with the local councillors, and what we now know is that policy will have an enduring positive effect on the community for many years to come. That's what being a counsellor is about. It's having those kinds of skills to research, negotiate, persuade, listen, but then having the courage to say, I think this is the direction we need to be going. How can we collectively do that? And when you find people who are prepared to do that, working with them is a sheer joy. You're really coming in with a fresh start. And that's going to be an enormous privilege because you're going to pioneer a new way. And you have a terrific foundation to build on. So I personally want to wish you well. You can do so much for the community if you equip yourself with the right tools to do that. If you enjoy learning, if you enjoy people, if you enjoy seeing things really well achieved, then you'll find local government's a fantastic experience.